You got it. Thank you. It's a long, it's a big right
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good, I just left next door to come over here. Just had they just voted on 2 of the zoning hearing board applications. One for the airport.
Well, I'm sure they graded that. That was pretty much a no-brainer.
How you doing? Good. Thanks for looking into that thing up Walnut
I
Street.
actually talked to them today. So they are going to, I talked to her. You can slide your seat forward back. So they're not might take and then their hope is to somehow landscape the grass and shrubbery that way. Doesn't continue to push down to the
I felt like I did something.
Yeah, it's right in white for his hand. Not very good.
Which is fine, so I'll just finish.
Across the.
So not everything is south, everything is
Okay, we're going to begin here now. Welcome everybody to the December 17th, 2024 West Goshen Township Board of Supervisors meeting. We will begin tonight's meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. If you could please rise.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
A couple of announcements before we get started, that this meeting may be audio and video recorded by third parties. We're also live streaming on our Township YouTube channel, and there are extra copies of the agenda in the back of the room if anybody needs a copy. Moving on, we will begin with public comment. If there's anybody here tonight that would like to make a public comment about something that's not on the agenda for tonight, now is your opportunity to do so. Ma'am? Yes, please. And just state your name, please.
Bonnie Ziola, West Goshen. I just want to say thank you to whoever organized the Thomas Jefferson, John Adams thing last night, probably Nate and Dr. White, and I don't know any others. It was fabulous. I hope they do it more often than once a year, and it just is really very worthwhile. You could never hear too much from our founding fathers who differ but can still have a real conversation with each other. It was wonderful, so thank you.
Well, thank you.
Thanks for your feedback. Any other public comment? Yes, Dr. White.
Good evening, everyone. Doug White, West Goshen. Thank you, Bonnie, for that comment. I just want to thank the Board of Supervisors for initially approving the naming of the courtyard back in 2023, and the signs look really great. Thank you. And the Park and Rec will organize the dedication probably in the spring. And I'm sure you're working on the rest of the Wall of Fame. They add the names of our prior supervisors and other long-time staff. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much for your comment. Is there any other public comment tonight? Yes, Mr. DePrisco.
Sal DePrisco, and I'd actually like to echo the thanks for that. That was wonderful. I've seen them more than once. I could see them 10 times. Okay, I'll be brief, Madam Chair and Board. Second and final request for the, I guess referencing Mr. Golden's email from the Watchdog Group, I guess dated, to help me out, November 13th, November 29th, and I believe most recently the December 12th to the Board, asking for a formal retraction of the statement that we presented lies in the December 7th meeting, no, November 7th meeting. I would like it on record. Any retractions? No? Okay, I expected that. So I asked to the Board, then, could anybody on the Board from the November 7th meeting cite anything that was misstated, lied about, or misrepresented? Okay, I'm going to take that as a no, that we did not do any lies then. I'm not going to belabor this. It's going to die here, but I do want to make one point. If we're to have meaningful conversations between the public and the Board to solve any problems or to provide any meaningful input, this level of, what do you want to call it, distrust, I find it's not productive. I'm going to let it die here. I will not mention it anymore, but the Watchdog Group will continue on in doing their work and hopefully work to build your trust to perhaps do things more productive in the future. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Yes, Mr. Golden.
Charlie Golden, West Goshen. Just a few comments of clarity from the last meeting. I had 5 points. I just want to restate them. 1, stop purchasing EVs for emergency response vehicles, including police vehicles. The bitter cold's coming, and there will be power outages, and that will take effect against emergency response. Stop buying ChargePoint EV charging stations for public use. Subsidizing ChargePoint's profits through our taxpayers is wrong. It appears to me that EVs and chargers are in our capital budget, but the prices appear low. When you approve the budget tonight, it's our understanding that it sets all this plan as policy in 2025. So I think representing the cost for EVs and chargers lower is misinformation. Give taxpayers a break whenever possible. On Thursday, Chester County will approve a 13% increase in our taxes. The 2-year-old storm sewer report, repair report, does not appear to be in our spending plans for the capital budget. Maybe that's changed in the last month, I'm not sure. And that's a pretty big expense, that's the $45 million. I did take a look at the report. I looked at this, not quite all the 16 areas, but what I'm seeing is it's less about existing culvert repair, and it's more about redesigning our neighborhoods from the 1950s and 60s curb style rain drainage to underground storm sewers. And the reason they did that in the 50s and 60s is that they were doing what it took to create affordable homes for young families to buy homes. Certainly the modern day underground storm sewers would be more expensive. I didn't see any option in the storm sewer report that says let's go back and repair our curbside drains. Over the years with repaving the roads, we really have those intended gutters, which are supposed to be 5 or 6 inches deep. They're down to 1 and 2 inches. So no wonder people have rain on their property. I did look at Area 14, John's neighborhood. That's Area 14 that ties in now to the Ravens Lane storm sewer project that was between 21 and 23. I don't believe there's any stormwater detention before it reaches the creek there. Brian, I don't think we have, is there any detention there? It just runs into the creek.
Which area are you talking about? I'm looking at the map.
The Ravens Lane stormwater project, the one that we've been talking about, that started in 21 and finished up in 23.
I don't go to Sylvan down the Eagle.
I don't know if there is detention at the bottom of that or not.
I'm pretty sure it's just a big pipe hitting that small little stream. And the area 14 in the stormwater report ties new sewers all the way up to Schoolhouse Lane, all the way down into, I believe, the Ravens Lane project storm sewers. So you're going to be bringing stormwater at a pretty rapid rate all the way from Schoolhouse Lane all the way down to the bottom of Eagle, and I'd like somebody to take a look at that. And with regard to John's particular problem, all those backyards from Schoolhouse Lane between your road and the road up above you drain right to your property, unfortunately. That's pretty rocky soil. It's got low infiltration according to the engineers. So I feel bad, but I think spending $5 million on underground storm sewers in your road system isn't going to make a difference for what happens with the backyards.
They already have storm drains along Penn Lane and Glen Avenue. Those are already in existence.
At the bottoms.
No, well, yeah, it goes up all the above if we have to block.
Well, it ties in the bottom, you're right, it ties in the bottom, but I'm saying we're going to spend $5 million, and I think you're still going to complain that you're collecting water in those lower properties, you and your couple of neighbors. So it's a shame. I don't know if there's an answer for that.
We've never had an issue there as far as, well, I should say, at least the front of the property. In the rear of the property, there's been issues, but you know, those have to be addressed by individuals.
Right. So I'm looking at the report, and there's a lot of work there, and I wish everybody luck on trying to make those improvements. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Are there any other comments tonight for public comment?
One more, we'll just get the subject very quick.
Very good.
I was wondering if, I don't see it on the agenda, that's why I'm asking, is there an update at all with respect to the solar PV project that's going to be put on the buildings here? And the reason why I ask is, last week I attended the Chester County Economic Development Council's annual SEI meeting. John and Nate were there as well. I just was discussing the project in concept with some of my colleagues, having been in that group for 15 plus years. And they were raising a couple of kind of eyebrows as well as the size, shape, cost, that kind of thing. So I was just kind of curious, where do we stand on that? You know, is it all designed? Is the cost finalized? That kind of stuff. Yeah. So I can sit down. I don't need to have a conversation per se.
So we just had a project meeting today with Terrasol, the contractor. So PECO's approved the permit for connection to the system at the full scale that we'd applied for. So that's good news. All township permits have been issued, all the engineering design is complete, all their submittals for all equipment have been reviewed by Keystone and approved, and they were placing orders for panels, inverters, and disconnect equipment in the next week, 10 days. The goal being that we will acquire this material and get it on site and store it for a March 15th, 17th start, or an April 1st start, depending on late winter weather. And the goal is to avoid any potential tariffs that would be applied to any of this equipment by getting it ordered on site in the next 6 to 8 weeks.
Schedule provided, final cost determined?
No change orders have been submitted to date. They're on payment number 2 application. It remains as is.
Okay, and I'm not questioning per se, just more refreshing my memory. What's the final cost and the final wattage or final size?
I have to look at it. I don't want to give you a number.
Within 50,000, I wouldn't care.
Well, I think the bid was 424.
424 for
480.
484 for, it was like 250, 275 kW?
287 kilowatt DC.
Okay, everyone's going to be really looking forward to seeing it then. They might be reaching out to them for that price. Okay, thank you.
All right, thanks for your comment. Any other public comment tonight? Nope. Okay, hearing none, we're going to move on then to item number 4, which is the discussion of the final 2025 General Fund, Sewer Fund, Waste and Recycling Fund, Capital Reserve Fund, Highway Aid Fund, and American Rescue Fund budgets, and approval of Resolution 31-2024, adopting said 2025 budgets and the 10-year capital improvement plan for West Goshen Township. So in front of us tonight, the board, you have a copy of the final budget for 2025. I want to thank Mr. Bayshore and Ms. Riffey for putting together an excellent packet here for us. not much has changed, I think, since our last discussion. Is that right?
That's correct. And any of the changes that were made, there was a report put together noting any changes from the preliminary to the final and the reason for those changes.
Okay. So with that, does the board have any outstanding questions or comments on the proposed budget for 2025?
I have one question for Christine. So one of the adjustments you made for 25 was to look at the current interest rates on our fund balances, and you've adjusted those as of November the 30th this year. So what is the actual rate you're using for the annual return?
I think I used about 2%, which is slightly lower than what we were as of November 30th, but I did that because we're anticipating there's going to be another decrease or two, in the near future.
So what, is that on our, like a TD accounts, or is that on our CD rates?
I didn't change anything on the CD rates.
Okay.
I strictly changed it on the TD accounts because that's where a majority of our money is held and our business is conducted, and that's where we're really seeing the changes. So I didn't do any changes to the CD rates or anything like that. That still stands for what we talked about before.
Okay.
I have a quick question.
Sure.
So I don't know if it's too late to do this, and maybe it is, I'm not sure, but we had the opportunity to go to the Santa breakfast this past weekend, and it was really great. They did a really good job. It's at Pecos now. But we had some resident feedback asking for some additional offerings. And so I wanted to kind of put it out to the board to see if it would be appropriate to allocate maybe another 1,000 to Parks and Rec for community events.
So I will say that it's too late now to go in and add it, but that's definitely a decision that the board can make during the year and authorize that change. It's very minor in the overall budget and that line item in itself, so it wouldn't require, wouldn't meet the requirements for a formal change.
So we wouldn't need to do that now. Okay.
No, that's something you can, address next year when it gets closer to the event,
Which is probably better because we'll have a better amount. What
Yeah,
it's gonna
absolutely.
be,
No,
the
just that it
additional cost.
came up from Ken, that we'd have to talk about
Right,
it.
and maybe Ken wants to do some sort of survey and see what people might like, and then, that could be an agenda item.
I also believe in running a lot of the community event costs typically come under budget,
Yeah,
so there might be funds that could be
probably
reallocated later on in the year.
Over budget,
Perfect.
request, but, specific allocation for that.
Okay. Great. Any other questions from the board?
I have one comment I'd like to make. Okay, so
Yes.
it's really a follow-up to Charlie's commentary about stormwater. I just want to reiterate what I think I said at the last budget review meeting. The stormwater infrastructure and our investment in it is quite complex, and there are really 4 areas. It's not just this study that was done, and in fact, the feasibility study is, in my mind, the lowest priority of the 4. The first priority is what we've been working on with Mark's team in Public Works and with the lining pieces of work that we've contracted for, and that is the failed or failing corrugated metal pipe that is used in a lot of the neighborhoods. And we had a study done by HRG reviewing some information it's around about 30,000 feet of this pipe, and they identified 20 to 25% of it that is in very poor condition and could result in having to do emergency work if we were to get sinkholes, etc., because of collapsed pipe. So that is the priority. We've addressed it in one neighborhood in 1 year. We've used ARPA money to fund the lining. We've obviously had Mark's team do the work in-house as much as possible, but there will be areas that we need to have contractors perform the replacement or refurbishment. And we don't really have a full cost analysis of what all that means. We're just feeling our way into it this year. But we will need to identify a specific plan of attack for other neighborhoods as we look into the future. So that's one bucket. The second one is the upgrading some of these major culverts that we have that are not adequate and have caused problems in the township. So we've already done Balmar Street. We have a grant application into the state for Montgomery Avenue, which has been a perennial problem for decades with the flooding there. And those are substantial projects. So I think I said this last time, if we don't get the grant for Montgomery Avenue, I would be advocating to the rest of my board here that we should be moving ahead with that project anyway. The third area is compliance with the MS4 permit. So most recent project we've discussed was the one Brian presented a couple of weeks ago now, last meeting, which was a pollution reduction project using the government services center base. And so those are stormwater compliance projects that cost the township money. And the fourth thing is the feasibility work, which is, as Charlie identified, these are areas of the township that have no or very little stormwater infrastructure. And what opportunities do we have to make investments that could improve the situation for these older neighborhoods? Some are more, should we say, unrealistic because they may not have a really clear way forward, but at least have been identified. Some have more near-term opportunities, and a good example of that is the North Hills project that we're working on. So I just want to reiterate that explanation because I think it's very important that people understand this isn't just one report to look at. You have to look at the entirety of the work that faces us at this township in terms of managing our stormwater systems. So thank you for listening.
I just had one other comment, if I can, Chair. I just wanted to say thank you for the input and time spent on reviewing the budget with the watchdogs. Appreciate your input, and I also want to thank Christine and Chris and the staff for all the work they did on this. So thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you to Christine, Chris, and all included in the budget process. I believe that we're spending within our means and saving for a rainy day. I believe we are accomplishing this with the 2025 budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from the board or questions? Okay, then would somebody like to make a motion to adopt the 2025 general or budget?
I'll second that motion.
Okay, thanks. Any public comments on the motion? Yes, Mr. Golden.
This is for Sean. Sean, a few meetings ago, I think you made reference to potentially transferring more money into the capital fund, specifically, I think, for some of these stormwater buckets, let's say, that we were spending, but I don't think we did transfer any additional funds this year.
So what I suggested at the preliminary budget meeting a month ago was that we asked Christine to update for the final budget an additional transfer of $2 million in addition to what was already planned in the preliminary budget, and that is included in the final budget. So the final transfer is $5 million to the capital reserve fund from general fund in 2025.
All right, so I don't think that's what was advertised. Is that possible? I think the 3.5 or something.
So we advertised the preliminary budget, and if you go on the materials for tonight's meeting, the final budget was posted. And if you scroll to the general fund, you should see an operating transfer of $5 million.
It's a little over $5 million because it also includes the debt service, but the $5 million is the transfer for future capital.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now.
Okay, so I'm going to rely on my memory in my discussion with Margie, who said if it goes over a certain percentage, you need to re-advertise and take 10 days before you approve this budget. And I wish Margie was sitting here because she could cite the exact regulation and the percentages, but I think that amount of money unfortunately puts you over the allowable percentage without having to re-advertise. So I believe you have to re-advertise.
Marge said it was 10% in aggregate for the entire budget, or it was 25% for.
Well, if it's an aggregate for the entire budget is roughly $47 million.
No, it was even more. So if the overall bumped by 10%, or the individual line item went up, it was either 15 or 25%.
But I think that is if you're talking about revising an already approved budget.
Like if we were to do it
like if you
next
have like
year.
a final budget and you're trying to make that change in a subsequent year, is my understanding. That would be like if we had adopted the final budget and you wanted to make a change to a specific line item of the already approved final budget. So preliminary budget is just preliminary. It's not.
Well, I think we need an answer to this.
Yeah.
Clarify that, maybe move on. Chris,
I mean,
look at
should we
it.
okay, should we move on and table this and come back to it?
Yeah, we might as well.
All right. So while we're looking into that, we'll move on to item number 5, which is
So let me just read the section, I can read it here. We can all look at it. It's 3202 of the second class code. It says that, and it talks about the proposed budget shall reflect as nearly as possible estimated revenues and expenses of the township for the year in which the budget is prepared. A township shall not prepare and advertise notice of a budget when it is knowingly inaccurate, which you didn't do. Upon any revision of the budget, if the estimated revenues or expenses in the final budget are increased more than 10% in the aggregate or more than 25% in any major category over the proposed budget, it may not be legally adopted with those increases unless it is again advertised once at least 10 days before adoption, and an opportunity given to taxpayers to examine the amended proposed budget. A major category is a group of related revenue or expense items, the combined total of which is listed as a line item. So the estimated revenues or expenses are increased more than 10% in the aggregate or more than 25% in any major category.
So it didn't increase by 25%.
it went from what to what?
3 million, well, 3 million to 5 million.
Well, that's 42 point,
So the capital reserve is a major fund. It was more than 10% change in the transfer of the revenue.
What was the code number?
3202 is second class township code. So was it the expenses?
The expenses increased by, so the expenses total across every fund is 47.5 million.
Well, Chris, can you merge across all funds? I think this is talking about major funds, right? So
No, it's in the aggregate.
Is it saying the aggregate for everything, Kristen?
It says, upon any revision of the budget, of the proposed budget, if the estimated revenues or expenses in the final budget are increased more than 10% in the aggregate or more than 25% in any major category over the proposed budget, it has to be re-advertised.
So the first one's fine because in the aggregate it's not more than 10% is transferred. The question is, if for a major is a capital reserve fund transfer considered a major category of revenue for it? That transfer from general fund to capital reserve, because it is more than 25% there from the preliminary budget.
I mean, we get into the gray area of interfund transfers not really being, we didn't increase an expenditure, we increased a transfer from one fund to another.
Yeah, you're not increasing.
It's a transfer.
It's a transfer, it's not an
It's
expenditure.
an expense.
But we treat the
We
capital
do treat it
reserve
as an
fund as a
expenditure.
major fund, which means we list and budget for its income.
Right, but it's.
And we also have expenses that are paid externally from that fund, so we treat it as a budgeted fund.
But she's right, it's not an expense, it's really
It's an
transferring from
interfund
general
transfer,
fund to capital.
It's not an
Yeah,
expense.
it's reflected as an expense.
It's
too.
reflected as an expense though.
Yeah.
But it's not an
In the
actual
budget
expense.
documents, but not for auditing purposes and things like that. So what trumps, one reporting requirement versus
So if we were to re-advertise it, it would be 10 days, which would still give us time to,
You would have to hold a special meeting.
Yeah, you'd have to hold a special meeting, and you'd have to, we couldn't get the ad in for tomorrow, so the earliest the ad could run is the 19th. So you could hold the meeting on the 29th, 30th, or 31st. But again, I mean, if you're saying that the capital reserve, it's not an expense, it's transferring from general fund to that.
That's a revenue for that fund. That transfer is a revenue for the capital reserve fund, that's how it gets its
But
money.
it's still it's still an operating transfer. I mean, I don't
I don't think it's highlighting that.
When you look at the audit statements, they're all separated out. Your incoming transfers and your outgoing transfers, they're all separated out as interfund transfers. They're not classified as revenues or expenditures in that sense. Now, we state it that way, in our budget documents because you have to show that money coming in some way, but it's still a transfer, it's not an expense. I mean, I don't know
I think
the
I-
classification for that, but
No, I'm sure that you're absolutely correct, and for auditing
Yeah.
purposes, I'm sure we would be completely fine. I
Right.
think my only concern.
I don't know what, terminology in the second-class township code, like what.
They don't define it.
Right, exactly, so I don't.
Right, and so my only concern
I don't know if in
then,
the second-class township code, they're defining a transfer as an expense. There's
Right.
multiple definitions.
it's
of
almost
that,
better
so-
to sort of err on the side of, doing it, and that's my opinion, for the sake of transparency, as well as, we don't really have the definition of what that is.
What's crazy is this is bureaucracy, right? We've got an agenda for tonight that includes all this information available, and it's been, to now say we need to advertise it in a paper.
Right, and I don't think
Crazy.
that that's something that hasn't happened before. We
Right.
regularly adjust this transfer between preliminary and final.
But not by this amount. This amount is
There's
bigger
definitely
than
been
normal.
years where we've, not quite this amount, but where we've increased it $1 million or something like that. I would have to go back and look as to what the percentage is calculated out.
So the lesson learned is we should have waited to advertise the preliminary budget until we had a
Actually, you
chance to
could do
include
that.
this $2 million.
You can't do that though.
So what you can
You
do,
couldn't, because you wouldn't have enough time then to meet your advertising requirement, to make those changes, and then still meet your advertising requirements to have it on, public notice for the correct number of days before the final budget meeting.
so section 3202F allows the board to by resolution transfer unencumbered money from one township account to another after the no monies may be transferred from the fund allocated for the payment of debts or from any other fund raised by a special tax levy or assessment for a particular purpose. Transfers shall not be made during the first 3 months of the fiscal year. No money shall be paid out of the township treasury except upon appropriation made according to law. So in theory, the board could approve the budget less $2 million back to the 3.5 that was in the advertised budget, and then after the first
March.
quarter of the year, do a resolution and
That's
increase it
right.
up to $2 million.
That would be the way.
Yeah, I think that's where you can go. That way you don't have to hold a special meeting, you don't have to pay to re-advertise that nobody's gonna read. So that's a section I think you can rely on.
Okay. Is everybody comfortable with that?
Yeah.
All right, so then.
So just amend my motion
yeah.
to include the reduction of that, eliminate. it.
So that it'll go, we should probably get the exact number.
Yeah.
So it'll be as it was advertised in the preliminary budget.
Preliminary budget, which is
Is
3 point.
It was, 3,542,001. So I mean,
Should be to.
Approve it with a 3 million.
you're gonna have to adjust it in your resolution.
so the resolution will be for,
Which we can do.
Yeah,
Okay.
you can do that.
And you said it cannot.
I'm sorry, Christine, one more time. What is the number? 3 million.
3,542,001.
$3,542,001 for
Yeah.
the capital.
So basically, your fund balance, I'm not sure exactly how you have it listed in the resolution. The fund balance or whatever it is going to increase by $2 million on the general fund side and decrease by $2 million on the capital reserve side. And I'll revise the documents and that will be what's posted on
Okay.
the budget as the final adoption.
so your expenses in the resolution go to general fund. The remainder should be the same, but the general fund will go to $23,212,705.
I'm sorry, one more time, Chris.
$23,212,705.
Capital reserve stays the same, Chris?
Yes, because that would only impact the revenue, and the resolution expresses the expenditures. So the revenue on the capital reserve fund side. Go to $6,000,000. $6,531,709. That's not correct, Christine? I just deducted $2 million.
Can you repeat that?
$6,531,709 in terms of the revenue on the capital reserve fund side.
I was looking at it. 6,531,709.
Yeah, because we're just reducing $2 million.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, very good. So we have an amended motion. We have a second to the amended motion. Was it you, Tina?
Yes.
Okay. So with that, is there any public comment on that? Yes, Mr. Golden.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I'm going to ask Chris, did you get a note from Margie on YouTube?
Yes.
Okay, good. I was just trying to copy for you. Good.
I appreciate you bringing that to our attention.
For the record, I read it in the paper.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, Dr. White.
Okay, Doug White, West Goshen, just one comment and then a question. The comment is that for the fire and EMS contributions, maybe to keep our costs in line, to encourage them, or even require them, I'm sure you can, to finance some of their major equipment. We did that in 2014 with good results. And the second question I have is, I don't have the papers in front of me, but I've seen in past budgets, the line items say miscellaneous expenditure or miscellaneous revenue. Is it possible to explain, instead of saying miscellaneous, to actually define those a little more?
Do you have a specific example, Doug?
I don't have it, but Margie was mentioning to me there was some of the line items were labeled miscellaneous. If it's been done in the past, I suppose it's allowed.
It's on page 38. There's one. And I'm just seeing one.
I think the one you're talking to for the fire contributions are on page 17 where it says miscellaneous contributions. I think that's the one that you're referring to.
Yeah, there could be that or others.
That's really the only one that sticks out to me for contribution-wise. A lot of our naming comes directly from the DCD chart accounts. We pull the naming from there, and then the expenses are classified based on what they are. So, but it's not always our naming. One thing I can do is I can try to maybe code it better a little bit in the presentation and say, I mean, we know the contributions to the fire companies, but I can reference maybe that's the miscellaneous contribution line is from fire companies.
Okay.
But I think a lot of those are like things like tax certificate, like when we get tax certifications.
Well, for miscellaneous revenue,
yeah.
But like when I'm looking at like I just know Doug referenced the fire companies and things like that. That line is titled miscellaneous contributions. And again, a lot of our titling comes directly from the DCD chart accounts, and then the expenses are just slotted accordingly for what they are. So that's something we can,
If possible, because sometimes you may not know what those expenses are and you say miscellaneous, and if you say they could be used for this with some specificity, it could be misleading, but it's just a comment, that's all, to be a little more descriptive if possible in those situations. Thanks.
Okay. Yep, thank you. Any other comments or questions then on the motion that's on the floor?
Madam Chair, Ms. Swartz's comments are related to the restricted parks funds. I believe she emailed the board regarding this, and we've addressed her comments accordingly related to the restricted parks fund. She also made a comment about the transfer amount into the capital reserve fund that's reflected in the budget. That transfer amount is based on the balance that's available now, plus the projected income through sales of the remaining homes in the Woodlands at Greystone, based on the amount that's paid. So that's where the transfer amount comes from in the capital reserve fund, and then the expenditures are on the opposite side, on the expense side. And they correspond with the park improvements and the major equipment that's allocated in the 10-year capital plan.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Ms. Swart, for your questions. Any other questions? No? All right, then with that, we will vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries 5-0. Thanks very much again, Christine, for all of your work.
We'll send around a revised document.
Excellent.
Tomorrow, once we.
Thanks, Christine.
And I guess we'll revisit that after March of next year, the
I mean, you
transfer.
can really do it
Yeah.
anytime next year. We typically don't make the transfers till towards the end of the year anyway,
Okay.
so we have plenty of time.
All right, very good. Okay, moving on to item number 5, which is the discussion and possible approval of Resolution 32-2024, adopting the 2025 real estate tax millage rate of 2 mils. So the last increase of the township's real estate tax occurred in 2010. So we haven't increased taxes in quite a while. Does the board have any comments or additional, questions on the millage rate for 2025?
I do not. I will make a motion to approve resolution number 32, 2024.
I'll second.
All right, thanks very much. Is there any public comment or questions?
Just a question. Does this get voted on every year, even if it doesn't change, just as a matter of course?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, Dr. White.
Just want to ask one question. Where does this tax rate of ours at 2 mils, where does that put us as far as in relationship to other townships in the county?
Other townships, let me just look.
So it says in the county we're below average but above the median.
Yep, we're slightly below the average, slightly above the median.
So we're right about it.
I'd say that's accurate. And the township's property tax rate in terms of an overall bill represents 7% of the overall property tax bill.
Okay.
And for our immediate area, we are below the average.
Correct.
Yes, Dr.
Yes, that White West Goshen, I'd just like to make a comment on the millage rate. Yes, we are currently fairly competitive with regards to other townships, but I'm sure you're all aware, our tax base is getting very strong here, and that's through a lot of planning, all the developments that are coming through. And you all may be doing this, but if it were me, I would take a special analysis of the millage rate. It could take a few years to do this, to see if we could possibly get by with a rainy day fund and paying our expenses and taking care of debt service with a slightly lower millage rate due to our increased tax base. You may do that analysis anyway. It's just some food for thought. I would not, even though Margie and Charlie do talk about the fund balance, and it's good to know about that, talk about that, but the millage rate has to do a lot more than that. And it's just, I remember my dad talking about tax base, and he liked open space, and he didn't like traffic any more than anybody else, but he always talked about we have to have a good tax base to pay for stuff and keep taxes down. That's how we got this space without raising taxes. So that's my 2 cents. Thank you.
I appreciate your comment. Thank you, Dr. White. Okay, then with that, we have a motion and a second. All in favor of adoption, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries 5-0. Moving on to item number 6, which is the possible approval of the 2025 service proposal from Dandelion Digital LLC. Mr. Bayshore, did you want to introduce this?
Yes, Madam Chair, let me just get to this in my packet. I apologize. So before the board this evening is the 2025 service proposal from Dandelion's Digital LLC. This was previously discussed by the board at the November 19th meeting. At that time, the board requested additional dialogue with Dandelion's Digital. Additionally, the board discussed issuing a request for proposal for this service in 2025. As discussed previously, the company will be utilizing a new software called Zen City that has an annual price of $5,300 for the subscription. The service agreement before the board proposes a monthly rate of $3,500, and Dandelion's Digital will absorb this cost, the cost for Zen City, in 2025. While the contract is for 2025, if we go out to RFP and provide a new vendor, the township can end the agreement with 30 days written notice.
Okay.
So it's an annual contract, but it can be terminated with 30
With
days
30 days notice, yeah, and they offered to absorb that cost for the additional software that we don't believe we really need.
For 2025.
Okay.
If we choose to stay with them, then we would take on that cost going forward.
You mean beyond, yeah.
Beyond
so
2025.
Okay. I appreciate looking into that and talking with them, that's good.
You are welcome.
I will make a motion to approve.
Okay. We have a motion, is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, thanks very much. Is there any public comment on this motion? Okay, hearing none, then all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries 5-0.
And just to be clear, Chris, we have asked you to perform an RFP then in 25 for this service.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right, item number 7 is the discussion and possible approval of the 2025 fuel bid opened on December 12th, 2024. This is for 2025, as I understand it. We received one bid. I'm just going to read here the bid that we received. So it was from Riggins, Inc. And for unleaded gasoline, the total would be $2.13 per gallon. For the BioClear Ultra Low Sulfur Diesel, it would be $2.5345 per gallon. For the low sulfur heating oil, $2.9065 per gallon. And for dyed ultra low sulfur diesel fuel, $2.81 per gallon. So there's a pretty significant decrease from last year.
That's correct, and I provided the bid results for the last 5 years in the packet for the board. As you can see, we're kind of getting back to where the cost was in around, I'm going to say around 2020. So it's getting closer. It's getting closer to those costs.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll just note the costs that Madam Chair read were for both the fuel and the delivery charge, the per gallon delivery charges.
We don't use much of the dyed ultra low sulfur for the generator, or do we empty that out so many years and replace it, or?
I'd have to check with our facility superintendent.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I know, and one of the reasons why I've spoken to them, one of the reasons we get so few bids on this is because of that is because of the generator fuel product.
Right, that's what I figured. Okay, thank you.
Can you, going back to the last 5 years, have we had other suppliers besides Wiggins?
I don't recall seeing one.
So they've pretty much been with us for all this years?
I don't recall seeing one.
All right, so then does somebody want to make a motion to approve the bid to Riggins for the prices that I just...
So moved.
Second.
Okay, thanks very much. Is there any public comment on the motion that's on the floor? Okay, hearing none. All in favor of approval, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries 5-0.
Just one follow-up for Chris. So, Chris, you said it's the dyed ultra-low sulfur that limits the bidders?
I don't know if it limits the bidders, but I have been told that that's the one thing that people don't want to bid on. I don't know if it's a limiting factor, but that's the one thing that people have hesitation on.
Would it be worthwhile having 2 bids, one for all the rest and one for that particular one, so we get more competition?
I can ask Mike what he
Okay.
thinks.
Yeah, no, that's a good question.
Or can we just go out when we need it for the generator?
You're not filling
You
it
know what I
every
mean?
else
You're-
off and just...
You may not need it the entire year, and you're sending your whole
something
bid
bid
around
on.
something and
Wow.
not really, may not need
Not
it.
a bid.
We've been relying on generator power a little bit more frequently this past year. I know a couple of you were here. We had a meeting where the power kept going out off and on. So
I'm just saying, can we keep it out of the bid, but when we need it, go for it? Because it's not going to be as frequent as it is for the other fuels.
I can speak with Mike about that.
Yeah, maybe just buy it off the street.
You'll probably be paying more than if you have a bid contract.
Yeah.
I would imagine.
No, but the idea of 2 bids, if we could do it, yeah, it's a good thing to ask.
What's the purpose of it? I mean, I understand it's ultra low sulfur and it's dyed. I'm using the generator. Is there a reason that we use the dye under the generators? Is it something regulated? You just want to differentiate?
I think that's for just the fuel that's needed for the generator that powers the complex.
Okay, but I'm saying it's different, then it's on a different rating, different octane.
Yes.
Something like that. So it's dyed, so you don't need to directly mix it.
Yeah,
Well,
and
it is, but I'm not sure that we need this type of product that died for the generator. There's other products we can
But
utilize.
it's dyed, if it's different spec, it's dyed, so you then inadvertently use it in diesel engines and vice versa. I get that, but it doesn't have to be dyed.
No, it doesn't.
I wasn't here when the generator was installed, so I'd have to talk to Mike about that.
Well, my former
It's much
company,
cheaper.
It's cheaper?
Cheaper than diesel they use on the road because it doesn't get taxed the same way.
Okay, there you go.
So you're not allowed to use dyed in your diesel
There you
trucks.
go, there you go. There's your answer.
Okay, thanks, Steve. All right, moving on to item number 8, which is the discussion and possible approval of an addition to the certified volunteer list for the Westchester Fire Department through West Goshen Township's Volunteer Service Tax Credit Program. Mr. Bayshore.
So before the board this evening is consideration to add Aurora Snyder to the certified volunteer list for Westchester Fire Department. She is a newer member of the fire company, and she serves as their financial secretary for the company. She is in the LoSAP program and did meet the qualification requirements. In November, I issued the necessary documentation from Keystone Collections Group that must be filed for the earned income tax credit. And when I received the documents back, I noticed that Ms. Snyder was added to the list. And pursuant to our ordinance, the addition would need to be approved by the board prior to uploading the information for Keystone Collections Group.
Okay, so she meets all the requirements.
Yes, she submitted, so there's a certification form through Keystone. She submitted the certification form that she met the requirements.
Okay. Why was she not included in the original last list?
I think just because she was a newer member and back in January, she probably wasn't involved, and throughout the course of the year, she met the qualifications.
Okay.
This is what we're trying to correct with the ordinance amendment that the board approved earlier this year.
I have no way to take it.
Yep.
I'll make the motion to approve.
I'll second that.
All right, thanks. Is there any public comment on the motion on the floor? No, hearing none. All right, all in favor of approval, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries 5-0. Moving on to item number 9, which is the discussion and possible approval of a professional services proposal from Carroll Engineering Corporation, construction oversight for the Government Services Center Basin retrofit project. Mr. Bayshore.
Madam Chair, before the board this evening is a proposal from Carroll Engineering Corporation for professional services associated with construction oversight of the Government Services Center Basin retrofit project. This project was awarded by the board to SLC Excavating at the December 3rd meeting and is a component of the township's approved pollution reduction plan. The proposal outlines a not-to-exceed fee of $61,300. Please be advised that these costs were not previously outlined in the proposal that was approved in 2023. That was specifically for design and bidding purposes. Due to the scope of the work, Carroll Engineering's proposal includes incorporating a sub-consultant land studies to oversee the landscaping components of the retrofit. The cost for this project is incorporated in both the Capital Reserve Fund and the American Rescue Plan Fund in the 2025 budget.
Okay, thank you. So this is an award for a not-to-exceed fee of $61,300 for Carroll Engineering to oversee the project.
Yep. To do the inspections, to conduct the inspections of the construction, to do contract administration, to process payment requests. Well, they review the payment request for accuracy and then submit us to issue the actual payment to the contractor.
Would their oversight follow through for the 1-year warranty on the trees and the other shrubs?
If they need to come in, then yes.
Yes, the oversight is for 1 year. It's in the proposal.
And then Brian, this was a little bit more detailed than what Carroll Engineering provides, so just because of the scope of the project, and Brian provided some of the information as to what will be evaluated as part of their oversight.
Additionally, I did speak with Chris Peterson about this. So Land Studies is a engineering firm that specializes in stream repairing corridors. It's doing the floodplain reconnection project right now. It's a rehabilitation project to keep the flats over in West Whiteland. Last meeting I had spoken about the presentation about what we were thinking about potentially trying to do with Barber Park as we're getting The plans show 67,000 pounds of reduction. They haven't done the as-built to certify that, but that's what they're getting for that floodplain. When speaking with Chris, Land Studies actually was the landscape architect that did the landscape design and the design of how this basin is going to function from the landscaping aspect. So they've already been involved in the project from the start. So he feels that with the scope of the landscaping and how dependent the basin is on being properly vegetated and maintained for that first year to make sure it grows, that's why they brought Land Studies in to do the oversight of the landscaping portion of the project. It's their design as well. So the design of the basin layout, the grading, the under drain, all that is, the general concept of the basin was designed by Carol. The actual planting plan of how it's going to grow and what's going to survive in the bottom and all that, and the species, tolerant species, all that, that's all been, that was the landscaping design itself was Land Studies.
I have a question for you, Brian. So we had a range of bids on this project. The winning bid was lower than the estimated cost by Carol. Has Chris Peterson talked to you about the fact that this proposed scope of work is adequate to oversee and ensure that we get the quality of construction required of this project?
Yes.
Could you go into any detail?
So Chris and I discussed the project, and typically an engineering project, construction project, you're about 15% on construction oversight. This is a little bit higher. The reason it's higher is because of the landscaping portion of the project. If this was just a standard basin, it would fall in. It would fall in this. If it's a standard basin that is not a retrofit for water quality and trying to get as much MS4 credit as we can. So.
Any other questions from the board? No? Okay. Does somebody want to make a motion then to approve
I'll make a motion.
the Government Services Center Basin Retrofit Project? Thank you, Nate. Is there a second? Thanks. Any questions or comments? Yes.
Question. So you just asked my first question, so thank you. And that percentage, yeah, that's kind of what I was going with. Well, it seemed a little high. So I guess it's competitively bid, so not an issue there. The price was higher than I expected. Did they give you any, for lack of a better terms, number of hours on site, a number of hours that they would be dedicating to this work for the money? Because it seems a little high.
Carol or the contractor?
That's whoever's doing the oversight itself.
Oh, Carol.
Whatever you're paying the $1,000 for. So. It's a 90-day contract.
Number 3.
Okay. Yeah, just so I know there's no such thing as there is oversight of oversight. We might keep it an eye to make sure they're actually showing up. Yeah, make sure they're showing up for the money. It's a lot of money actually. Okay.
When we get the bills, they're reviewed by myself, Brian, and Mark Bertolami in our office before anything is paid.
Okay, so but I'm saying those bills are citing man hours or man days.
Yeah, and they provide a daily report for each day they're on site of how many hours are on site and the reporting that they're looking at.
And hopefully that they're not just being there for the sake of being there, that it's not excessive. Okay.
And it is a not to exceed price.
Well, no, I understand that, but I mean, I don't want to see people who are there just doing busy work and saying, "Oh, I'm here. Look at that. Isn't it pretty? Look at the pretty grass." I mean, who cares? Okay, thank you.
And there has to be some oversight over the oversight.
Well, I agree, and I don't want to see wasted time and money.
I mean, I just want to clarify something, Sal. You said competitively bid, that the construction work was competitively bid. This is our professional engineer. This is we have an agreed billing rate with them that we approve at our annual meeting. This is their estimate of the scope and hours required to do the job times their billing rate is highly determined 61
So the oversight was not, you're saying this oversight?
The oversight is not bid. Professional engineering services, we have a...
You're not required.
We're not required.
Okay, I got it, preferred vendor.
We have done it on other things in terms of where it's a new piece of work, but for something where they were the design agents, I mean,
I get the concept that I
mean,
don't want...
I hear you, it is high.
Familiarity
in terms of the percent.
I don't want familiarity breeding contempt.
Yes, exactly. It is high. It is a project we want to work. We've got a lower bid than we anticipated versus the estimated construction costs. So what we don't want to do is have lack of oversight and then have a failed project, right?
I get the concept. I get the concept. So yeah, oversight the oversight.
Mr. Rowland, do you have a question?
Yeah, so getting back to that area 14 in the stormwater plan draining into the Ravens Lane project, it was down to the bottom of Eagle Road without any detention basin. If you're looking for credits, I would say put that on your radar screen. We're doing all this for credits, but we're doing it in a different township. I think that
This is in West
Eagles
Goshen.
Road needs, I think the bottom of Eagle Road needs something.
This is in West Goshen.
Yeah, this is the township. Okay, thank you for your comment. Any other comments on this motion? All right, hearing none. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries 5-0. Moving on to item number 10, the discussion and possible approval of a professional services proposal from Carroll Engineering Corporation for work associated with the installation of sidewalk on West Rosedale Avenue.
Madam Chair, before the board this evening is a proposal from Carroll Engineering Corporation for professional services associated with the installation of sidewalk on the southern side of West Rosedale Avenue. This project would provide a sidewalk network from the Cambridge Hall Apartments to existing sidewalk further east on Rosedale Avenue. As the board's aware, the township was successful in securing a local share account grant in the amount of $85,368 for this project. The proposal amount from Carroll Engineering Corporation is a not-to-exceed cost of $15,875. I'll note that prior to issuing the proposal, the township engineer, Brian Kolakowski, reviewed the scope of work with Chris Peterson, and based on that review, we are comfortable with the proposal provided.
Okay, thanks very much. Any questions from the board or comments on this proposal?
What's the overall budgeted amount for this Rosedale Avenue sidewalk?
It is $105,000 is what's in the budget.
That's the construction cost, or does it include this $15,875?
Construction plus engineering.
And this oversight, this whole
Yes.
thing, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I meant. I apologize.
I'm sorry, it does include it?
Yes.
Okay. And our grant was for?
$85,368.
Well, I wish Mark Goldberg was here tonight, because really it's because of him that we have this project going, so thanks, Mark. Okay, so do we have an approval or a motion to?
No, I'll make a motion to approve the professional services from Carroll Engineering in the amount of $15,875 for the Rosedale Avenue sidewalk.
All right, thanks, Sean. We have a second from Nate. Any public comment on this motion? Okay, hearing none, then all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Just a quick question. Mr. Bishop, where are we at as far as proceeding with this project? After we get Carroll to do the engineering, are we ready to put this thing out to bid?
Once they finish the engineering, there is additional right-of-way that's going to need to be acquired, so we're going to have to make sure we can secure the additional right-of-way or easements that are necessary, and then we can put it out to bid. I think the hope is to actually put it out to bid in the summer, hopefully.
Great. Moving on to item number 11, which is the reports for the month of November 2024, with the police report presented by Chief Michael Carroll.
Thank you. The report for the police department for November of 2024. We responded to 2,095 calls for service. 57 of those were alarms, none of which were found to be valid. We responded to 97 accidents, 23 of which were reportable accidents, and we drove a total of 21,087 miles. We performed extra traffic enforcement on South Five Points Road, Taylor's Mill Road, and Green Hill Road, South High Street, Little Shiloh Road, and North New Street, Snyder Avenue, Route 202, and Goshen Road. We performed our normal monthly trainings, and in addition to that, Lieutenant Cotter completed his stay at the FBI National Academy, came home last week. The department-wide control tactics, which is kind of a self-defense class, and the fall range were completed. Officer Grider attended conducting complete traffic stops. Sergeant Gilbert, Detective Edwards attended handgun red dot instructor training. Detective Cuddy attended a geolocation for law enforcement. Dispatcher DiGiacomo attended sexual harassment training. And Officer Ash attended anticipating defenses in crash reconstruction. As far as the alarms go, 30 of the 57 alarms were either first or second violation for the year, and 9 were either a 6th or a 7th violation, which is the highest fine area. We performed 25 assists to other departments for just under 16 and a half hours, and we received 28 assists from other police departments. And that is the report from the police department. I'll certainly take questions. Yes, sir.
Do you have any idea how much we've collected in false alarm?
I don't, but I will have that for you at January's meeting when we do the year update.
I had a question relative to Kia. They've had a lot of alarms, just 5 in the month of November.
They had a lot of construction going on, so I was getting
okay.
into the building.
And also, I think that's all I had.
John?
Yeah, this resets starting January 1st, right?
Yes.
So there's 9 companies or whatever that had false alarms. So we're going to go back to getting just a warning.
For the first 2, yes.
And I see there's something wrong there. I mean, it's just on and on and on and on. These folks just are not changing their behavior. Seems silly they charge them $500 in December and just give them a warning in January. But anyway, that's how our fee structure is set up at this point. But it's something we may want to look at.
That's a good idea. Maybe there's a threshold beyond which you don't clear out at the beginning of the year, you just continue.
You just want to go for a certain amount of time of no alarms.
Or that process as well, yeah.
You earn your way back to 0.
There you go.
We can look at that, yeah, we'll look at that.
Chris, you want to put that on a think about list?
Sure.
It's a good point, John, it's good.
Yeah, I mean, is there any conversation with these property owners to say like, hey guys, like who's responsible? Like, this is something that we need to have.
I'm assuming when they get that big bill, they recognize responsibility because they've been paying them. But
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the process. Like we were dealing with the microtel, and a lot of times it's, you know, the owners sometimes just own the land. They don't own there's tenants. They're not involved in the day-to-day operation. Like sometimes if you can really get to the person who would be like a facility manager, or it may be worth a conversation. I mean, I know that takes time, that takes energy. You shouldn't have to do that, but you shouldn't have to keep responding to false alarms. So sometimes proactive, positive conversations can help. So I don't know.
Yeah.
We can talk about that.
Absolutely.
Chief, I have a question for you.
yes.
So we've heard Charlie express his displeasure with electric vehicles. So I want to put you on the spot and say, do you have any electric vehicles in service today with the police department, or are you planning to buy any that would not be fit for service?
No, we have none that are not fit for service as they are. We do plan on buying one next year and put it in administrative function.
Mm-hmm.
I am not confident in the electric vehicles in a patrol function at this point, and I don't see that changing in the near future.
And you know the board supports your position on that, right?
I do.
Thank you.
All right. Yes, Dr. Wright, do you have a question?
Chief, do we have any red light cameras in the township, and what's your thought on those, and would they add safety to traffic?
We do not have them. I don't believe we have the authority to use them. That's a state authority.
Would it be worth it to advocate for those through our state reps, or do you think that we should have them?
I like a warm body in a police car enforcing the law.
So we have no state-owned cameras that run through, like, that are in
Pennsylvania, I believe the only
Yeah, the city.
automated cameras are in like turnpike construction areas or in cities.
Okay. All right. Any other questions for the chief? No? All right, thank you. Moving on to item number 12, which is the Board of Supervisors announcements. I'm going to start to my left tonight. Mr. Woolman, do you have any announcements?
Yeah. Tuesday, November 26th, Mr. Hellman and I met with Mark Botabami to discuss progress on the Fresh Meadows project and preparedness for the merger with the Parks Department. Wednesday, December 11th, I attended the SEI, which is Smart Energy Initiative Workshop, along with Mr. Hellman as well. Discussion included federal funds for various projects. Thursday, December 12th, I attended the Historic Commission's presentation of John Adams and Thomas Jefferson. We had approximately 126 seats spoken for. I don't think we actually had 126 people here, but it was probably about 100. So it was very well attended, and the Historic Commission did a fantastic job with that. Finally, Tuesday, December 17th, attended a meeting at Good Fellowship along with Mr. Wall.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Smith?
A couple announcements. On December 4th, we attended the Chick-fil-A ribbon cutting ceremony. Well attended, and we got a free sandwich out of it. December 10th, I went to the Christmas wreath and centerpiece making workshop. Ken and his staff did an excellent job at it. It was a great event for $5. Well attended. They had to add a few more sessions on because it was so well attended. December 14th, I did the Santa breakfast at Pika's, which was excellent and well attended. I think we had about 175 people. It was a new venue for us. We used to do it at Timothy's, which we all know closed. They did an excellent job. Couldn't have done any better. December 18th, I'm going to meet with GFAC to go over the budget details, their budget for the year. December 19th, the next coalition meeting is going to be January 23rd. And also from now until December 23rd, as I do every year, I'm going to be collecting gift cards for the crime victims. And then we go with the police on Christmas Eve and we deliver the gift cards to the crime victims' homes. And Santa, of course, Santa comes too. I forgot about him. So if anybody does want to donate any gift cards, you can bring them directly to the police, or you can certainly give them to me. I'm going to be delivering all the ones that I collect through my gym and also my neighborhood. And also, I know Mike talked about it, but I want to elaborate a little bit. The board is very proud of Mike Cutter, who graduated from the FBI National Academy in Quantico, Virginia. The FBI National Academy is a very prestigious leadership program for police, executives, and leaders across the world. So congratulations on a distinguished accomplishment to Mike Cotter and his staff. And then I have one last announcement I'd like to make. I've been on the Sewer Authority for 8 years. I will be leaving when my term is in, the end of December. I really enjoyed working with an all-man team over the past 8 years. Hopefully that'll change after me. And I'll miss all the staff, including some of the bad sewer jokes that we've had going on. But I tolerated them. I did like helping design and upgrade the sewer plant while spending about $35 million on the sewer plant over the past 8 years. Spending the money was in a good and responsible way. So we now put the sewer plant in a maintenance mode where we'll spend about $2 million and maybe $1 million thereafter to maintain it moving forward. We worked side by side along with HRG engineering firm, where we created a great bond, collaborated on great ideas, and developed a great camaraderie. We all got along and worked side by side with the goal to have a state-of-the-art sewer plant that we did achieve, I think after 8 years. And a testament to Sean and various other people on the board also. The township is also very fortunate to have very talented and dedicated employees that work at the sewer plant. They are always ready to help out any of the board members or answer any questions. They're on call for any and all emergencies while being taken away from their families and friends, and do it with grace and dedication. Our employees are state-of-the-art, just like our new engineered sewer plant is state-of-the-art. I appreciate the opportunity to be able to serve on the Sewer Authority for the past 8 years. That's it.
Tina, thank you so much. Congratulations, yes.
Sorry to see you go, Tina.
We know how much time you devoted to the Sewer Authority, and we're very proud of you, and also understand your reason for leaving. But thank you so much for all of your service on the sewer plant. Mr. Hellman, announcements?
Sure. Mr. Roman already mentioned about meeting with Mr. Bertoni, and also Tina talked about the Chick-fil-A and 10 both of those. Wednesday, December 4th, attended a land planning committee meeting along with Commissioner Supervisor we deal with consultants to further discuss the zoning ordinance rewrite, and we discussed topics such as the districts that are being proposed, the use regulations for those districts, affordable housing, and animal regulations. We'll continue on this discussion in future months. On December the 10th, I attended the Planning Commission meeting to discuss applications before the township. Then on Wednesday, December 11th, along with Mr. Woon, I did attend the Smart Energy Initiative, which is organized by the Chester County Economic Development Council. It includes contractors, PICO reps, consultants, municipal elected officials, and other interested individuals. And we discussed several sustainability issues, potential grants, training programs, and trends in the industry. We provided an opportunity to network in the smart energy field. On Thursday, December 12th, I also attended the John Adams, Thomas Jefferson impersonation. I thought it was really cool. It was very entertaining and very informative, and I hope we get to do that more in the future. I'd like to see maybe Thomas Jefferson, Ben Franklin too, also included with that. That would be pretty amazing. Then on Thursday, December 17th, today I attended the solar array project meeting update along with Supervisor Walsh. Now, events that are coming up on Tuesday, January the 7th, there's going to be a traffic committee meeting with the police, sponsored by the police department, and it's going to be beginning at 5 p.m. here at the Township Building. And on Thursday, January the 16th, there's going to be a joint West Goshen Township Police Department in collaboration with the Westchester Borough Police Department community meeting beginning at 6 p.m. at Milestones in the borough that's located at 600 East Market Street. So I encourage folks to come to attend that. So that concludes my
Thank you. Mr. Walsh?
Yeah, just 3 announcements. So on November 26th, Christine Riffey, Mike Moffa, Walt Wills, and myself met with S&P Global Rating Agency to review the West Goshen Sewer Authority financial condition and its credit rating. And I believe they have upgraded our credit rating. Obviously, it's tied very closely to the township because of the overall status of the plan and the successful financial controls and performance of everybody involved with it. So one more credit to Tina and all the work we've been doing on that. On December the 4th, I reviewed the American Rescue Plan Act fund commitments with Chris Bayshaw and Christine to ensure that all the remaining balance would be associated to contracts by year end. And I'm pleased to announce it was in our budget that was the case. And then earlier today, I participated in the monthly meeting with Mr. Hellman for the solar array project, and I gave a status earlier on that. And I also met with Nate and with GFAC to review their 2025 budget, discuss their overall financial condition as we look into future years. That's it.
All right, thank you very much. As usual, I'm not going to repeat what my fellow board members stated. I was present at a lot of these too. We had a pretty busy month of December. I also want to announce that we did meet before this meeting in executive session to discuss personnel matters. So with that, we'll move on to item number 13, which is the township manager's announcements.
Madam Chair, I'll keep this relatively brief. The board's annual organizational meeting will be held on January 6th, 2025 at 5 p.m. There will not be a meeting on January 7th. The advertisement for the township's 2025 meeting schedule was scheduled to run today in the Daily Local News.
Chris, just on that, although it's titled an organizational meeting, there will be some regular business conducted, correct?
Yes, there will be 2 regular business items conducted related to 2 very minor subdivision applications that were recommended by the Planning Commission.
Thank you.
The township's December e-newsletter will be issued on Friday, December 20th, 2024. Regarding updates related to the holidays, the township offices will be closed on December 25th in recognition of the township of the Christmas holiday, and the building will close at 12 p.m. the day before for Christmas Eve. Trash and bulk trash collection will be adjusted to Friday, December 27th due to the holiday. The township building will also be closed on January 1st in recognition of the New Year's Day holiday. Our ordinances that are under review, the Sustainability Advisory Committee has continued its review of the proposed ordinance amendment related to the township's landscaping requirements. We did receive comments from the members of the SAC that will be submitted to the township solicitor to make some final adjustments, and then they will review that again at their meeting on January 28th. This will also have to go before the Planning Commission and the Chester County Planning Commission for review. Additionally, we met with the representatives from the Historic Commission on their Historic Resource Ordinance on November 26th. That was myself and Ms. Camp. The primary focus pertained to provisions for demolition by neglect. The township solicitor has revised the proposed ordinance and circulated it internally, and then it will be forwarded to the Historic Commission for further review prior to being presented to the board. As it pertains to the Parkway Shopping Center redevelopment for Wawa, we did receive a revised traffic study that was submitted to PennDOT as well as Chris Williams at Bowman, and it is being reviewed currently. I also want to commend a couple people here this evening, one person here this evening and someone who's not here. I want to recognize our Director of Code Enforcement, Andrea Testa, and our Zoning Officer, Shelby Smith. They both completed the Delaware Valley Trust Municipal Leadership Program in November, and they joined our Park and Recreation Director, Ken Lear, who also completed that program this year. So that's three individuals this year who have completed it, and there's one more who will be done in January.
Congratulations all around. Very good.
Mr. Walsh mentioned the ARPA projects in terms of the Fresh Meadows Storm Sewer Repair Project. Mr. Bertolami is still looking to schedule to have that work completed. He has made contact with the property owners who are in those easement areas where the lining work will occur. They have replaced 850 feet of corrugated metal pipe in that development since that project started, and they're working on replacing the C-top inlets along the curb line. And I just want to reiterate that I have received absolutely no complaints about any of the work that the Streets Department has been doing in that development. They've been doing an outstanding job. The Government Services Center Basin project, those contracts are slated to be executed by me on Thursday. So they will be signed before the end of the year. And the proposal for the construction oversight was approved by the board this evening. And then in terms of the Longview Drive storm sewer lining, that work was completed on December 12th. And that did complete an item outlined in the Regional Stormwater Feasibility Study. As noted, we had our meeting with the Land Planning Committee to discuss the zoning ordinance update, and the next meeting of the Land Planning Committee is going to be in February, on February 3rd, but they are going to present to the full Planning Commission to provide a status update at their January 14th meeting. As it relates to the Park Recreation and Open Space Plan, we had a meeting on December 5th. The steering committee reviewed the items related to the survey results, and I'm pleased we got a lot of positive feedback for the township's park system. They also reviewed each of the parks individually and defined the area type and use. The steering committee, they did not set another date, and we're working to schedule focus group meetings as part of the development of the plan. So yesterday, myself, our Park and Recreation Director, Ken Lear, our Assistant Park Director, Park and Recreation Director Tom Sines, and our Park Superintendent Doreen McClune met. We outlined the groups that we would want to invite to those focus groups, and Ken is going to get in touch with Tool Recreation about how we should go about scheduling them. We outlined a number of sports groups, arts groups, cultural groups, and how we should go about scheduling those different focus group meetings.
So are you anticipating that we're going to meet again in January or February?
Late January, probably early February. That's kind of the timeline thinking about. Particularly with the sports groups, we're probably going to have to break it up into a couple different meetings because the sports groups were pretty big. Mm-hmm. In terms of like art and culture, we were going to reach out to like the school district, the university, the different religious organizations and talk to them and kind of see what we can bring them into in this plan. Mm-hmm. And then with the sports groups, we were talking about splitting them up between like the field sports, like baseball, lacrosse, things like that, and then what I kind of call like the action sports, like, you know, you're more like skateboarders and things of that nature. Mm-hmm. So I have like a whole page of people that we outlined to kind of talk to.
The Art Center in Westchester?
That was one of the groups that we were going to talk to. And then as it relates to the improvements in West Goshen Community Park, they have gotten pretty much as far as they can before the weather turned, and then, so they'll be back in the first part of 2024 or 2025 to complete the work, particularly on the basketball court. We did do one payment application for them, which will be on your bills list in January, I believe, for about $270,000. So there is still more work to do. Okay. And we do have the second phase of improvements that was in the budget that was approved by the board this evening. Mm-hmm. The North Hill storm sewer improvements, we're still working to secure the easements on those. Brian is meeting with representatives of the Civic Association to address what I believe is one final question that they have. They're meeting on Thursday, and then we did receive follow-up from one of the other property owners and are responding to their questions accordingly. We received that on Saturday.
Was that the owners at 963?
Correct.
Okay. Trying to respond. Okay, good.
We received responses from them on Saturday. Brian, Chris Peterson, Kristen and I looked at it. I did answer one of their questions today, but we're putting together responses to their remaining questions. I believe there were, Brian, correct me, like 7 or 8 items that they raised.
Are we feeling optimistic? Are we moving in a good direction?
Any showstopper?
I didn't see anything that I would consider a showstopper, but we're reviewing everything accordingly.
Okay.
And then finally, the last yard waste collection day will be December 21st.
All right, very good.
And that is everything I have.
Thank you. Any questions for Chris from the board? No. All right. Moving on to item number 14, which is the Township Engineer's Stormwater Announcements and Wood Lives at Greystone Update. Mr. Kolakowski.
Good evening. I have a few things to mention tonight. As far as stormwater, as you did approve tonight, the Government Services Center Basin contract will be signed. We'll be coordinating to get that notice to proceed and pre-con meeting scheduled. We're looking at probably late spring to get started, probably March. So we have time for germination, because if it's a 64-day build schedule, we don't want to start in January. Additionally, our MS4 permit cycle inspection is scheduled for 9 o'clock on Thursday. So DEP will be here on Thursday to do their once a permit cycle inspection. I've talked to every engineer I know, and we're the first ones.
Really?
Yes. So nobody that I know has ever gone through one of these.
Really?
So we are going to be the guinea pigs.
So what are you expecting? Did they tell you what to expect?
First part of the inspection is to go through our annual report. And the second part is they want to see the public works facility.
Okay.
Probably for the good housekeeping, make sure we do everything fine here. They didn't ask about, we'll see if there's anything else they want to do. It's scheduled for 3.5 hours. So don't know what they're going to want to look at for 3.5 hours, but I'll report in January what they have looked at.
What day is that?
Thursday, the 19th. Additionally, on the 10th of December, I had a meeting with Melior Design to discuss potential for MS4 projects in our parks. They just wanted to see, they're the stormwater sub-consultant tool for the master planning, so they met with me. We talked about, they presented ideas they thought of, and then we talked about each idea that they had and why it was or wasn't a viable idea. They're going to do some more work and come back to me. But they were unaware of our wetland issues in Barker Park at that meeting. Additionally, last week, I spent Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday up at Penn State for the Annual Traffic Safety Conference. One of the big topics I sat through a few sessions was about EV charging and the public money for EV charging. And the question that was asked at every session was, if you're giving out money for charging, is one of the requirements for these public projects that the electricity be available? And the answer was no. They don't care if electricity is available, they just care if the land's available for the grants. It's the responsibility of who's going to install it, because it's a private installation. They're responsible to make sure there's enough electricity to meet the charging demand for the grant they're applying for. So there's no oversight from the state charging program from PennDOT on making sure that when these charging stations they're all proposed all over the state, that there's actually available electricity to meet the demand.
So there's no oversight, or there's no oversight from them?
There's no oversight on requiring, making sure there's electricity. It's just, you have the land, electricity is available, and then they go through the process of installing it for this network. They've identified sites, and there's 3 sites online currently, 3 more under construction, and 16 of them are in different stages of permitting through the state program.
That's because they assume you're going to get the electricity to make sure it's there.
It's on you to make sure it's there, but there's no requirement for them to award a project to make sure in the award this project that it's not part of what they review.
Yeah, I'm not really.
Oh, there's the charging stations along the major highways?
Yes.
That's not the first phase.
Yes, there's 3 of them in the state right now. Additionally, tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. is the pre-construction meeting for the Quality Inn redevelopment, so you'll see action very shortly.
Good, I've
starting.
been keeping my eye on that.
So that
Okay.
pre-construction meeting is tomorrow morning. So I don't know when they're going to start actually knocking it down, because they do have a demo permit, but they have to go through the process of doing this pre-construction meeting with not only me, but also the conservation to start the project.
Do you have any idea of the actual completion date for the overall project? Is there a time limit?
Don't know, because I don't know if they have 2 operators on board yet to do, I don't know if they've ever been on board yet for the self-storage.
Oh.
Because there's the 2 separate buildings. I don't know, because there are going to be 2 separate operators, I know that.
I think they just use an example for the rendering.
Okay.
I don't think they have someone.
Yeah, we don't even have building permit plans yet. All we have is plans to take everything down.
As far as I know, the hotel is no longer operational. At least it
It's
doesn't
been-
appear that way.
It's
Found them
completely,
moving a lot of
it's
stuff
completely
out.
disconnected.
What?
Yeah, it's empty, but anything the township can do to speed up them taking it down, we have been spent many hours down there this month searching the building for people illegally going in and stealing copper and wire. So
Well, they're going to be fencing,
that up will help us.
they're hopefully going to be fencing it within a
Fence
week.
doesn't stop thieves.
But fencing it to start taking it down.
Yeah.
I will bring that up tomorrow.
Yeah, Brian, can you just make sure that Chief Carroll gets an idea on when the demolition timeline is?
Yes. And Woodlands Greystone update, the only 2 updates I have are still working through the approvals to have our coordination meeting in January with the developer. At that point, I'll have a better idea of where we stand as far as that, but I would expect that we're going to be looking at 2025 for being ready to consider.
Are we talking summertime, fall time?
It depends on the dam. I don't have any information back from them yet on schedule for fixing the dam. And that's one big item I want to understand before we start letting people run wild. Lastly, Emily and myself, we attended a preparation course on Saturday and Sunday this weekend for 2 days for our FAA Part 107 license. And we both registered to take a test at 2:30 today. It was canceled at noon today. So I'm taking mine in January, and she's taking hers. She's scheduled to take her test on Thursday.
Your test was canceled?
We got an email from the FAA telling us her test was canceled.
Does it have anything to do?
They're all in Jersey, are they?
Don't no idea, but we were supposed to take our test at a testing center
actually, it's
in
good.
King of Prussia
Yeah,
today. So I was going to announce what our results were tonight, but instead we're not taking it.
You actually do a hands-on part of the test?
No, this is just, this is a 60-question test for the FAA, through the FAA for licensing only. This isn't about how, this gives you the license it doesn't teach you how to fly. It gives you the rules and the regulations of what you can fly, how to read a.
So you're legal to be able to fly one, but you may not be able to.
Yeah, it's an interesting, right, and it's an interesting time to get your drone license.
So you can join all these drones up in the sky.
Well, that's one of the things we discussed. Here's one of the things we have to learn about. This is the weather forecast for an airport. So we have to know how to read these to be able to take the test. After that, we don't know it.
Do you know you don't know how to fly and you know what the weather looks
Yes.
like?
Yes. That's one of the things that what we've been talking about and practicing. But this is actually a weather forecast for.
So read it.
So it's the 12th day. It's the 12th day of the month from 1800 Zulu to the 13th. We had 2400 Zulu. That goes into this is the direction. So it's 200 true, 12 knots, 5 nautical miles, hazy, broken clouds at 3,000 feet.
Wow. I know.
So yeah, but we have.
I'm impressed.
That's what that means.
Why can't they just say it? Why does it have to be in code?
Because if they would write that out, it's about a paragraph. So this comes out in code, so the pilots get it quickly in code. This is for pilots.
If it's a paragraph versus encrypted.
Yes. So that's the last thing I have. But one thing they did talk about at the training came up about the drones that are going everywhere. And 2 things that came up was one, everything they're doing is legal because the lights are on. They shut the lights off, they got a problem. And so, and 2, and Chief, you can attest to this too potentially, but they said if you shoot a drone down, FAA looks at the same if you walk on a plane with a bomb.
I don't know how they look at it, but we run up on it.
Yeah, because it's a licensed registered aircraft, so there's no
Right.
difference.
Do not shoot any drones you see flying.
Yes.
You have to follow flight plan, right?
Depends on which kind of airspace you're in. There's-
And how high you
You're limited to 400
Chief, I don't know
feet.
if you want to comment on this whole thing. You know, I reached out to you, but any updates?
No insight whatsoever.
No insight.
No.
Have you had reports of drone activity in this area?
Yeah, no, and oddly enough, because I have friends in the area, not in West Goshen, but in neighboring jurisdictions that have seen them, but we haven't.
Okay.
Wasn't the feds talking about delegating the responsibility of what to do with them to the local townships and counties?
They were.
Oh, so they're not considering that?
I don't know what we were doing.
Yeah, well, inspect them, or what your detectives do now, I guess, but with a drone.
So if this is going over my property, am I allowed to shoot at it?
No.
No, because it's regulated by the FAA.
It's my airspace, though. Is it?
It is.
Oh, you think so?
It's not too good.
I don't think that's true. There's planes fly over our airspace all the time.
I know, we give them an easement.
Okay, all right, thank you, Brian, for those announcements. Moving on to item number 15, which is the zoning officer's announcements.
Just a few. At 5:30 this evening, we did have a zoning hearing board hearing to vote on 2 applications. The zoning hearing board did approve the application for the Brandywine Airport in conjunction with the senior living facility, as well as they did approve with conditions the 706 East Market Wonder application.
Yeah.
They would like to see a sidewalk coming up the side of the building, and they would like to see additional signage to help direct patrons to the rear, one Bulmar.
The sidewalk being, you said along the side of the building where, I guess people are gonna be parking in the back.
Correct, just trying to give them a safer access from the rear.
There's a rear entrance to the problem.
They're gonna make, I guess.
There is a rear entrance, but the zoning hearing board felt as though most people were gonna use the front entrance and therefore sidewalk along, I guess what would be the western portion of the building would assist in that. And then just 2 updates on the other 2 cases. 851 South High Street, which is the Exxon, was continued. It's currently going before the board, currently scheduled to go before the board on January 27th, and will appear before the Board of Supervisors at the January 21st meeting. I do know that they are working with the residents, so that may get continued again. But at this time, that is kind of what's scheduled there. And then the 1103, 1105 Saunders case is also scheduled to go before the zoning hearing board on January 27th and before the Board of Supervisors on the 21st.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
I was on the website today, I didn't see any zoning here, when was that put on the website?
No, it would have been advertised.
Yeah, Mark advertised that, the zoning hearing board solicitor advertised that in the Daily Local News.
But it's not on the calendar?
I guess not.
I mean, last time there was a special meeting, we had like less than 24 hours notice, but now there's no notice?
Well, legally, Kristen, correct me if I'm wrong, it has to just be advertised 24 hours in advance of the meeting.
If it's not the hearing on the application, it only needs to be advertised 24 hours in advance of the meeting, that's correct. But this wasn't the hearing, this was a decision meeting, so it's different than an actual hearing. The hearing has to be advertised 2 consecutive weeks, not less than 7.
Not more than 30.
So, but it's not a bad idea if you could ask Mark if you know these, to put it on the website.
Yeah, it's not a bad idea at all.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
Yeah.
If you know about them.
Yeah. Any other questions then?
Yeah, I have a question about the Saunders Court hearing. They're looking for a variance from the West Goshen Township ordinance to permit 38 buffer zone. What is that?
So this originally appeared during the land development plan. They are looking to build a building, a warehouse, I don't know, 100% know what kind of building they're looking to build, in the 100-foot undisturbed buffer. And it looks like they're looking to go 38 feet from the property line, rather than the 100 feet.
And it abuts the residential area?
It abuts, yes. pulling it up.
Yes, it makes more sense when you see it.
So they abut the apartment complex, which is the residential use.
Where's the apartment complex?
At the top of the screen,
Top
but
of
it's
the
the
screen.
entire parcel is what the buffer is from. So even though there's no apartment complex down where they're looking to develop, they still have to remain 100 feet from that property line since that property is a residential use.
Yeah, they're looking to combine these two parcels and develop back here on 92. And this parcel is the apartment complex. You can see it's up here, but because the uses in the property, the way yours is written, there's one for access.
We'll see them in January, I guess, right?
Yes.
Anything else?
That is it for me.
All right, thank you. Moving on then to item number 16, which is the approval of the meeting minutes of November 19th, 2024. Does any board member have any major changes or questions of these meeting minutes?
Okay. See on page 5. I think it's in the middle of the page. Just a typo. Mr. Golden asked if the public will, I guess you want to say, will have access to
It should say have.
or have the details?
Yep.
I have one also.
Yeah, go ahead. I have a couple others too.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
First page, under public comment, it has to let everyone that, it should be to let everyone know.
Can we just email Chris any typos, please? And then if there's actually any, like, material,
Content.
yeah.
Well, there is one content one, that's on page 11. I mean, I'll email it to him, but I just want to make sure. I think there should be a sentence added here at the top of the paragraph there. Mr. Basher stated that he does not think it's a good idea to treat this application regarding the Wawa differently than any other. And I did make the comment. Mr. Helmut stated that in this case, it would be appropriate to notify the residents who are party to the conditional use here.
And I don't agree with that.
I know you don't, but I'm saying that was part of the meeting.
Okay, yeah, I can include that.
Okay.
So have you notified them?
We don't have a date for when it's going to be on the agenda.
Okay.
They've submitted like I said earlier, they submitted a revised traffic study. I know Brian is actively doing his review right now, but I don't know if they're coming in January or not. So I have no idea when they're going to come before the planning commission. But I just don't think it would be appropriate to handle this any differently than any other application. That's what.
Well, this is an unusual application. It went through several conditional use hearings. There are several residents in the area who are parties to that conditional use. I think it would be appropriate to let them know how this proceeds through the township.
Okay. All right, moving on to item number. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, we have a motion in a second. Is there a motion? Okay, hold on, let me just get this. So is there a motion to approve the meeting minutes of November 9th? Thank you. All right, thank you very much. Yes, ma'am.
I emailed Mr. Bayshore and Mrs. Smith in reference to what I thought needed to be corrected in my dialogue with Ms. Smith. Did you receive it?
I did receive that, and I'll review the tape and make sure, and I'll make that change if it's appropriate.
Okay. All in favor of approval, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries 5-0. Moving on to item number 17, which is the approval of the treasurer's report dated November 30th, 2024 for the general fund, the sewer revenue fund, the waste and recycling fund, and the capital reserve fund, and the bills to be paid from these funds. Are there any questions?
To approve the treasurer's report and bills to be paid from the fund.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thanks, Mr. Woolman. Any questions or comments on the bills to be paid for this month? Okay. Hearing none, all in favor of approval, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries 5-0. And before we adjourn, I just want to say thank you to everybody for coming out tonight. Thank you to all of our staff. Thank you to my fellow board members. Thank you to Mr. Bayshore, Ms. Camp, all of the chief for another great year at West Goshen Township. And I've really enjoyed being chair this year, so thank you for affording me that opportunity. Is there a motion to adjourn the meeting? All right, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Have a good night, everybody. Have a wonderful holiday season. And we'll see you in the new year.